welcome to this episode of The Daily. My name is Brendan Malone. Happy Easter. It is Resurrection Sunday. It is the day when we celebrate and commemorate the bodily resurrection of Jesus from the grave. It is one of the most important and central moments and central celebrations in all of Christianity. It's a hugely important day. Today is the day that separates Jesus from any other religious leader or prophet or nice guy who has some wise words to say. It is the day when we commemorate the thing that ultimately proves that he is who he claims to be, that he is God. He has risen from the dead. He has the power over the grave itself. When you look at all of the evidence that we have, for me it's pretty simple. There's really only one possible logical conclusion that I can come to when I look at the evidence we have, and that is this, that 2,000 years ago, those group of first disciples and others, they actually saw the real bodily resurrected Jesus. And it was that encounter that completely transformed them. There's nothing else that explains why a group of people who were literally hiding and cowering in fear and were ready to disband and go their separate ways completely turned all of that around, turned 180 degrees, and then went out into the world and started saying to people that he has risen from the dead, that he has great love and mercy for all of us, and he wants to be in relationship with us. And literally, most of them went to their deaths proclaiming that. There's only one thing that really makes sense of that, and that is that they actually had an encounter with the real risen Jesus. That's the only thing that could be so transformative. Why? Well, first of all, for those first century Jews, they didn't really think of resurrection in metaphorical or emotional or mental or psychological terms. They didn't have those concepts when they talked about resurrection. For them, resurrection was always bodily. So this idea that they just had some sort of emotional encounter together and then thought, oh, isn't this nice? Let's sort of think and feel as if Jesus is resurrected, but actually hadn't seen him. That just wasn't a concept for them. And secondly, it doesn't explain why they would do that. For first century Jews, there were a lot of people who claimed that they were the Messiah. And one of the litmus tests for whether your guy was the Messiah or not was if he got killed, that meant he wasn't the Messiah. So there's no way that the death of Jesus was just this sort of minor, insignificant quibble on the journey for them. That was game over. It was the ultimate test, and Christ had failed it. The only thing then that makes sense of them being willing to turn all of that around and go from being scared, cowering, and ready to disband is the fact that they actually saw him bodily resurrected, because that would change everything. That would be a game changer. Hallucination, can't explain it. I mean, if one person had hallucinated and then wandered around telling people that they'd seen Jesus alive and that was it, just one person, you could say, okay, maybe this was a hallucination. But you've got multiple witnesses to this event. And a time when people, the reality is they knew the litmus test was if your guy died, that was it was game over. So you'd have to first of all get rid of the body somehow, so that the local authorities couldn't find it. And that might be easy today in Las Vegas with a car and a boot and plenty of desert and all the rest of it. But that's no easy thing to accomplish in that first century and get away with. But let's say they had managed to somehow get away with that, trick professional Roman soldiers who were guarding the tomb, move a stone, a massive rock, and dispose of a body in secret. They would then have to go back and convince everyone else to join them in this conspiracy and to go to their deaths for this lie and say, well, let's pretend that he's still alive, and we'll go around telling everyone. That just doesn't make sense in the first century. People, those first group of followers would have said, this is insane. He failed the test. There's no point in carrying on telling people he's alive. There is nothing in it for us. This is insane. Now, if you're going to make up a lie like that as well, then you better have a really good reason to do it. So you better be doing this because you want power or prestige or fame or something out of it. There's a reason for creating a con job, and that's because of what you get out of it. But there's nothing in it for these people to do this. In fact, Christianity, and from the leadership right on down, is a call to renounce power. It's a call to renounce wealth. That's what they did. They renounced their wealth, those first Christians. They lived in common. The leadership certainly weren't on a fast track to glory or fame. It was effectively, they knew they were signing their death warrants, most of them, if they got caught. Like it was that serious for them. And yet they still did it. They didn't get riches out of it. No one gave them money. No one gave them power. It was about servant leadership. St. Paul has to supplement his income at one point. One of the most famous of the first Christian leaders has to supplement his income making tents, right? So he's not getting given Harley Davidsons and jets and bags of cash. That's not happening. So why, oh why, would people do this for no real return. And then on top of that, if you're going to do this, and that would have to mean that they had produced fake religious documents. The New Testament would have to be fakes. They'd be forgeries. They're just made up stories. They're not real. It's all just a bunch of lies. If you're going to do that, if you're going to make fake religious documents to start a new religion, then you're going to have to meet some basic criteria that the Gospels don't meet. First of all, you have to talk up your Messiah and make sure that everyone is really clear that he's the guy, he's the man. Now, they do that. The Gospels do that. But then there's something else that you're going to want to make sure that you do with your founding religious documents if they are forgeries. You're going to want to make sure that those documents tell a really impressive tale about you, the first leaders. You're going to want to make sure that those documents really talk you up and make sure that you've got the Messiah telling people how awesome you are and how he's so glad he picked you and you're the best of the best. That's not what you see in the Gospels. Go and read them. You will see regularly there are moments where Christ is literally throwing his hands in the air and he's going, when will you guys get it? At one point he turns to Peter, who is the chosen leader, and he calls him Satan. Get behind me, Satan, he says. At another point, Peter denies Christ 3 times. After the crucifixion, all of them, but 1 or 2, have abandoned Jesus. If you're writing fake religious documents, you wouldn't put stories in like that. You would put stories that make sure that people are aware that you are the leaders to be trusted and to be followed. You would write glamorous fake accounts about how important you are. You would talk up your attributes. The Gospels don't do that. They do the exact opposite. Not only that, and this is really important, if you're going to write a fake religious document and the central moment that proves beyond a doubt that your guy is the guy, you are going to want to make sure that you have reliable witnesses to that resurrection from the grave. And guess what? The first witness to the resurrection of Jesus from the grave is a woman. That's insane if you understand first century Jewish culture, because women had no legal standing. They couldn't be used as witnesses in court cases. They were not, they just didn't have very much social standing at all. It's if you were going to write a fake religious document and you wanted the resurrection to be the central moment, you would have a man as the first witness if you were a first century Jew writing that document, but they don't. The only thing that explains all of what we know, the evidence we have, is that these people felt they didn't need to fake anything. These people felt that they had such a confidence that they could go to their deaths proclaiming these truths. They were not scared of death anymore because they had actually encountered the real risen Jesus. There was no way, realistically, of hiding a body. If the Jewish authorities knew where the body was, they simply had to produce it. A conspiracy like this, you simply don't get away with. If a group of people had gone and somehow managed to overcome soldiers and move a big stone and get rid of that body and dispose of it somehow in secret, then guess what? Sooner or later, someone would have confessed. Before they got crucified or beheaded or whatever happened to them themselves, they would have said, okay, no, we did, please don't kill me. We made the story up. But they didn't. They went to their graves, they went to the death for this, and they didn't get anything in return. No power, no prestige, no wealth. Instead, they renounce all of that stuff to follow the Messiah. The only thing that makes sense of such a profound transformation and such a radical commitment to Christ and to love and to self-giving and humility is if they knew and believed beyond a shadow of a doubt that Jesus really had truly risen from the grave. Happy Easter. See you tomorrow on the Daily.